everybody, it's Friday, and what a week it's been. There's been some interesting news from Wizards of the Coast about the upcoming, at some point in the next couple of years, Dungeons and Dragons. I think we're all still reeling from all the big stuff that happened last week with Free League, though. I've had quite a few things in the post. Let's get into it and uh, discuss what's new on Kickstarter this week. Thanks for joining me with Divas Dungeons, Foreboding Forest, and The Coolest Cats. Welcome to the Dark Orb and to Kickstart your weekend. Hey, and with me today is me. We're all having one hell of a week, to be perfectly honest with you. So I think the quips are going to be a bit interesting today. I'm really sorry. It's going to be a very different show. But we are live, so please keep the comments coming through, and I'll keep an eye on those. Let's have a good conversation. First of all, I thought it would be really cool to just go through what came in the mail for me today. Now, one item, and only one of these, was Kickstarter related. But our lovely friend Martin, who sadly is not able to join us today, is responsible for more money going out of my bank account. Thank you, my friend. I love you lots. First of all, let's go for Kickstarter. So let's see if we can get our wonderful nerd cam up and running. So this arrived, Temple of the Kraken God. This was, there's nothing on the back here. But yes, this was a Kickstarter for a Merkborri scenario and extra cool stuff. I've not actually had a chance to look through this yet. This arrived today, but I was out. In fact, I saw the new James Bond movie. I'm not going to give you any spoilers other than to say, if you enjoyed the Daniel Craig series of Bond movies, it's a great way to effectively sort of bring that whole story to a nice ending, if you like. So it's very good, very in keeping with the latter movies, James Bond movies, and certainly worth checking out, to be perfectly honest with you. Straight away, good to see you, Jason. Good to see Krista and Mohammed. I really appreciate that you're joining me this evening. Yeah, keep those comments coming. So yeah, check Bond out. I really, really need to see Dune. We can now finally, might as well swap the cameras actually. We can now finally actually view that, or rather book for that in the cinemas. That's October the 22nd or something in the UK. So they've only just opened the tickets for that. I'm a little bit excited and also disappointed that it's taken so long for them to do that. How's your week been, everyone? Let me know in the comments. And of course, if you enjoy the show, then please like and subscribe and all that sort of stuff if for some reason you haven't already done that. Free Guy, yes, Jason was saying he watched Free Guy, which just came up on Disney Plus. In fact, I know that because Sanjuro told me. Good to see Sanjuro as well. I really want to see that so much. We wanted to see it at the cinema, didn't. It'll happen. It will. Probably this weekend, but I haven't seen it yet, so hopefully that was good. Really looking forward to it. Where were we? Oh yes, Temple of the Kraken God. Let's have a look at this. I haven't looked at it at all yet, so let's see what we've got in here. Oh, looks like I've also got something weird going on with the, that's really interesting, with the colour stuff going on. I shall fix that very quickly. My apologies. There we go, fixed. Hey, anyone would think that we were recording Cult, Divinity Lost, Gallery of Souls, and I left the green screen setting on, schoolboy error. Temple of the Kraken God. So, this is really beautiful. I'll share the drive-through RPG link shortly. In fact, I'll put that on the show notes below. But this has really got the styling of the Merkborri franchise down really well. I say franchise, it's not like Pelle Nielsen and Johan Nord actually make any money off of these things, because they're amazing. Let's have a look. I just think the styling is really awesome, right? Do you agree? Let me know. But certainly check this out. Temple of the Kraken God. I'm actually going to check because I think I remember who wrote this, but I am not going to make any promises of that without looking first. Yeah, it was Christian Eichhorn. So I think Christian's got something going on Kickstarter at the moment. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but he is just a machine for generating amazing Morkborg or Merkbury content rather. In fact, I think it just funded. There we go. It funded yesterday. Sacrifice, which I think we probably didn't manage to talk about previously. But yeah, check out Christian Eichhorn on Th3rd RPG. Everything that he creates is just fascinating and awesome. And I don't think I've actually run any of it yet. So yeah, that was great. That's a print on demand from Drive-Thru. You can kind of tell that by looking at the way that the print has come out. Most of you know I'm not a huge fan of print on demand, and I'll tend to go for offset printing or some kind of mainstream print if it's available. But it'll do. It's a zine. But do we know how many pages there is? 51, 2, 3, 4, 54-ish pages inside. What else arrived? Actually, one other thing arrived from Th3rd RPG, and that's Occult. I've been looking at horror games to potentially run through this month. We had intended to have quite a lot of horror content up. I'll be honest, it's been a struggle, both because of the reality of trying to schedule something in that everyone had time to play, and also trying to find things that everyone wanted to play. We are recording Cult at the moment, as I said. We'll probably stream that out in the last week of October, so that we can have like a week of Cult, which I think is going to be great fun. We are going to try and get some stuff in the meantime. There are lots of things in motion. If you'd like to be a part of that, of course, you're welcome to join us on the Discord. So the link is below for our Discord server, and quite often we're looking for players. Obviously we're looking at horror stuff right now, so bear that in mind in terms of content. But yeah, we're probably looking at something like Trophy Dark, probably some Mothership, and maybe a bit of Dungeon Crawl Classics. So if we have any spare seats for those, then we'll advertise that on our Discord server. So that'll be cool. Anyway, Occult. I haven't got my head around this yet, but the concept is, and as you can see, there's lots and lots of words, that you basically all come home kind of to your hometown and things are a little bit strange. And you're kind of reminiscing things that don't quite feel right, having all grown up and come home. That's my understanding. I was just looking through to see if I could find a synopsis of the game, but in this short space of time, because I forgot that this was on my table, I didn't manage that. So that's something that I was considering running this month. Also on the list at the moment is View Scream, which is really cool. Whether or not we can actually all stomach being in character for 90 minutes is something to think on, really. But I'd really like to get that to the table. What else? Well, Martin spent my money on this. Troika. It basically came out from us talking about Crapland, which I never quite got my head around. Crapland was a Kickstarter where you are in some way involved in a supermarket, I think. It was very strange. And I just thought, I've got to have some of that strangeness. So here we are with Troika, and I mean, it's really impressive. I've had this a couple of days. I haven't read it yet, but it's really interesting. And the art is very, very kind of 80s, 90s RPG in places, and kind of weird colour palettes. And these are the character classes, and this is goddamn fascinating. Let's have a look at this. So let me just zoom in. And I'm just going to pick something at random. Requesting Night. There we go. You're on a quest for the Grail, or the Sword, or the Throne, or for God, or a lost love, or some other regionally significant aspirational device. You're sort of common enough, wandering the spheres, acting out your romantic melodrama, and accusing good folk of being demons or fairies, generally considered harmless. I just I love there's quite a romantic nature to the ridiculousness of some of these things. Um, Dwarves are known for being the finest artisans of the million spheres. Give a dwarf a rock, and they'll make gold. Give a dwarf a boulder, and they'll make a dwarf. Yeah, give a dwarf a boulder, and they'll make a dwarf. You were supposed to be the finest expression of dwarfy craftsmanship, a true masterpiece, a brand new dwarf like no other, but you were deemed a failure and left unfinished. It is just, I mean, yeah, I, I struggle to find the words for this. It's just so ridiculous. And if we can get the right party together, this necromancer, this loneliness encouraged students to make their own friends because necromancer are the loneliest of magicians or magical practitioners. I mean, anyway, Troika. Um, so Jason says you must have got your copy in the same mail as I did. Oh, what did you get? What did you get? Did you also get Troika? I bought the bundle, and apparently they were waiting on. Look, so this is how much money of mine Martin spent. Troika. Paleozoic pals, very pretty Paleozoic pals. I haven't looked at this at all yet. Let's see if we can hear the spine cracking. No, no noise. But let's have a quick flick through. Again, it's just absurdity incarnate. Fronds of Benevolence, same again. Can't hear that spoin. Can't hear that spine cracking. Can't hear that spine cracking at all. But again, I mean, this is just awesome. And the reason why it took them a couple of weeks to ship it out, or at least a week to ship it out, I was getting a little nervous about it, was that apparently Acid Death Fantasy was out of print. So even though their advertising was like, hey, you've got to buy this Troika bundle before we sell out, actually they had sold out of Acid Death Fantasy. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but mine actually came damaged. I did tell them, but I didn't ask them to refund me because I'm trying to move away from being prissy about things. Doesn't always work. But if you look carefully here, I don't know if that's going to come up on camera, but you can just sort of see here, there's a little bit, if I can get that to focus a bit better. What if I zoom out and just do this instead? There we go, that's better. Maybe if I zoom out again. So this was actually kind of peeled off. It was like someone had taken a potato peeler or something to it and actually peeled the slice off. So I've glued that back down with Pritt Stick, basically. And it seems okay now. Probably would be better if I didn't stop poking it. But I didn't ask for a refund or anything like that. I did get my 10% off for being a new customer, because although I had bought from Melisonian Arts Council before, I had not signed up to the mailing list. So if you are thinking about buying Troika, be aware that they do have a pop-up that will occur at some point when you're on there, if you haven't blocked pop-ups, where if you sign up to their mailing list, they will send you a 10% off voucher. So two things to be aware of there. Firstly, in my case, that pop-up didn't come up until after I'd completed this transaction, and 10% is quite a lot when you're buying a bundle. The second thing is that it takes a while for the email to come through. It took like almost half an hour to an hour. So even after I'd then emailed Melisonian and said, hey, this has happened, is there anything we can do? And they were great, actually. They just applied a refund to the order for the 10%. Actually, it still took a while for the code to come through for the 10% off. So if you've not bought from them before, that helps to ease the burden a little bit. And yeah, the shipping was pretty good. I got it within a couple of days and then telling me it was dispatched. Said Royal Mail First Class came through. I've forgotten the name of the courier now. It wasn't. That might have been DPD. Certainly wasn't raw mail. But yeah, these are lovely. In terms of the size of them, they're not huge. If I grab something off the shelf for comparison, there we go. Everyone knows MacBoy, so ta-da. So if you have a section of shelving that's dedicated to this book here, then that'll look great next to it. And even in terms of spine, I think they were really nice actually. I think the quality of the binding, you know, aside from that tiny little defect, is really quite something. They're not the cheapest books, but anyway. What say you, everyone? Should we talk about Kickstarters? There's only 3 on the docket. Although if there's anything else that you are keeping an eye on, then please do let me know in the comments. I am checking as we speak, and whilst we say that, let's have a look and see what we have in terms of comments. So, Eric says, "Hey Eric, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. In fact, let's have a look and see in a second how Raining Blood is doing, because, you know, that's the thing. It would help if I could type, wouldn't it? Goodness me. Who's taken my ability to type away from me? How long have you got left? 9:13. So you've got an hour left. So for anyone who doesn't know, who has not quite remembered, Eric said, Victory Condition Gaming's breakdown on MacBoy saturation was an interesting watch. Eric is running the Rain in Blood for Mothership scenario setting book, whatever you want to call it. It's on Kickstarter right now for 1 more hour. It's for Mothership. Let me just bring that up on the screen. Let me just get over there. Right. So I just need to make sure that you all remember that if you like Mothership, that this is compulsory purchase right here. It is basically vampires and other cool stuff in space. It is Mothership, so this is space horror. And we had a great chat, Eric and I, last week. So check it out in our YouTube back catalogue after you've purchased it, because there isn't enough time right now for you to go and watch that interview and then back this. And, you know, this is worth backing before we run out of time on it. And as I said, 54 minutes to go. Very, very quickly, let's just get this window looking a little bit bigger if I can. Gosh darn you, Windows, you're not helping me. Right, there we go. Right, so that's pure through and through World of Darkness stuff right there. Dungeon crawly goodness. And you can get in there for $7 on the PDF. Really worth it. Or $15 plus shipping for the book. Do it. That's all I'm going to say. If you like space horror, if you like Mothership, do it. You'll only regret it if you don't. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us, Eric. Let's have a look and see what else we have in the comments. Bruce Sandro, hoping to run Alien on the 18th. I do like Alien. I don't love it. I like it. I ran it at Mothership. Mothership? No, I didn't. At Dragon Meet, the last Dragon Meet that we had in person, and it was great fun. I had a great time. I've got no real desire to run it again, and I'm not sure why that is, because I love horror games and I do love the Alien mythos, the Alien world. Just something that doesn't kind of pull me back again and again and again. New comments. Let's see if we have anything else. Regarding repairing sellotape or the old plastic cling cover that they had on old school textbooks then. Yeah, I wonder if they still do that. I wonder if actually that's still what we do to fix those textbooks, or if there's some newfangled modern technology that we're just not aware of for fixing things. I mean, it must just be PVA glue and water, right? I mean, that's normally the fix. That's what Dan at Melsonian recommended for me, just watered down some PVA, but I'd already pre-sticked it by then, and it seems fine. Current Kickstarter. Should we have... Oh! Drum roll, please! I can't hear a drum roll. I'm listening. There's a drum roll here. Hey, brother, how are you?
Yeah, good. How are you?
You
Happy
couldn't cope
Friday.
with me slating you for spending all my money, huh?
Well, you know what it was? I got the notification on my phone that you were going live, and I clicked on it, and I was like, he's by himself. And I thought
Oh,
that,
my. So
I
you're
thought
spoiling my fun,
that
brother.
that just won't do. So yeah, I saw you flicking through Troika as well. I didn't have the sound on because I was doing something else, but I saw Troika, and I was like, oh, okay, all right.
Yeah. Those character classes in Troika are just incredible.
Yeah, I love them.
They're
I
so
love
good.
the whole thing, the
I'm
whole
I just
package.
I'm totally not over the necromancer. The whole, basically you've got no friends, so you have to make your own. It's just
Yeah,
fucking brilliant.
yeah, it's great. It's really good. So yes,
Oh
happy
dear.
Friday,
Happy
everyone.
Friday, my friend. Happy Friday. And yeah, it's been one hell of a week. Like, not in a Kickstarter way, just in a real world way. Um,
Yeah.
I wish I could say that this was an alcoholic beverage, but sadly it is not, because I'm 12 and therefore it is blackcurrant and apple squash.
Well, yeah, I've got an alcoholic beverage, but
Where's mine? Oh yeah, it's
um,
in the fridge.
yeah, yeah, it's just in the
In
fridge.
fact, we went to a large wholesale place, um, just because we were out and about anyway, and we did plan to get a case of probably Record League or Old Moat or something, um,
Hmm.
cider, hard cider for the Americans out there, and we did all the other shopping, and that area is right at the end of the parade that you have to do the IKEA like walk to the checkout,
Yeah.
and the mothers had moved it to the front of the store, and we hadn't noticed, and we were like, we've come too far.
IKEA stores, man, they're also like these. They try and trick you, and they're like me. Someone should do a hex crawl in an IKEA store
I
for
mean, that would be good for horror, right?
either that or actually the kind of weirdness of Troika. You could do that with it. But yeah, horror. I definitely feel horror whenever I go to an IKEA. Um, Whenever I'm there
Yeah.
for longer than about 10 minutes, I feel like I'm never gonna leave.
Bear with me a second. I think Andy's going to join us as well. Right. Should we talk about some stuff that's actually on Kickstarter?
Yes, I haven't done my
So
research this
by
week,
the way, I
so
didn't intentionally mean to just call Storybro you. I was multitasking, multi-failing then. But yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, if we actually manage to do this damn house move that we're intending to do, which is up and down and all the stresses that are associated with the British house purchasing and house selling debacle, which in itself is also very much a horror month for us. Um, we're probably going to have to go to IKEA to just buy some more furniture because why buy really high quality stuff when we go to IKEA and have stuff that fails within 2 or 3 years. They do also sell really nice high quality stuff. For some reason, we never buy that.
I
So
mean,
and oh, and the Kallax,
Kallax.
that Kallax doesn't count. I mean, you can you know like put your clothes in a Kallax, I suppose, and stuff like that, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend it as your go-to piece of furniture for everything.
No, I mean it's good for hobby.
Good to see you,
Hello.
Andy.
Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Indeed.
yes.
Yeah. I had
Ha!
all sorts of I had all
Hang
sorts
on.
of fun stuff.
There's a horror story set in a knockoff IKEA store, I guess, called Horror Stare.
Horror store, possibly. I don't know.
Should be Horror Store, but it'd be Horror Stare,
Yeah.
I presume. And Jason says, "Hey Andy."
And hey, Jason.
And Bruce says, Bertram Miller to the rescue wearing Superman outfit underneath.
I'm
His
more of a
pants are on the
Deadpool.
outside.
I don't know what I'm actually wearing underneath.
I'm wearing a t-shirt my dad got me for my Christmas present about 4 years ago because he's convinced that I wear the same clothing that I wore in my late teens and early 20s. So what's actually happened by attrition is that a lot of my other clothes have now just deteriorated, and I'm left with a whole load of clothes that people have bought me because they think that I wear that stuff, which is amazing.
Could be worse.
So like, basically, I'm like regressing back to my late teens and early 20s. I mean, things
You
like
could
the
have
hat
this
and my stuff.
mental image of you being 5 and buy you dungarees and things. It could be worse. I mean, you know.
I mean, that's very in. Dungarees are back in right now. You know, it's a little bit strange. For me, it's strange. I mean, our good friend Zach, he really manages to pull that off very well.
What, dungarees or?
Yes.
No one pulls off dungarees well unless they're actually
Zach is an
taking them off.
exception.
I don't
to the
know
rule,
if
trust
anyone
me.
could. I think it would be Zach.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I can't remember the exact palette, but they were like lime green with purple dinosaurs, or the other way around. And on anyone else, it wouldn't quite work. But Zach is just a roller coaster of awesome, and basically can just like make anything look just great. You know, that whilst riding one of the Nottingham electric scooters, it was just, yeah, it was great.
I mean, if you're gonna go dungarees, then the dinosaur dungarees are the way to go. Surely,
Yeah.
that's you got to go full.
I mean, they
Got to
did
go
look
full
like small
dungaree,
ones
haven't you?
in IKEA, but you know. Alright, we love Zach. Eric says, still talking about Alien, I presume. Thanks for front of
That's
the world.
not Eric. Eric has a beard and hair. I've
Yeah,
seen
Eric, you need to update your YouTube profile, man.
That looks like,
It's inaccurate.
yeah.
It looks like you've stolen it from some rock album.
I love the way,
anyway.
by the way, going back to your furniture thing, I love the way you're going to buy new furniture. All my furniture is second hand. It's great. It's cheap. It's reliable. This desk is the only thing that was bought new.
It's big over here at the minute. Actually, there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people talking about it, and a lot of people are also joking about it. Like, oh look, the middle class have found second-hand shops.
Yeah.
No, I'm not middle class.
In fact, no, I'm specifically talking about the Swedes here. They're
in fact, my wife
just now
buys a pair of plimsolls every year because she loves plimsolls, right? And inside them, because they're really meant for school kids, they have name and class, and she always puts name Sally, class working inside the plimsolls. So there you go.
As you do.
As you do. And if Sally does it, it must be right. So there you go.
For her, it must be.
And by me for default because I'm married to her. But anyway, moving
on. Let's start off with a board game.
By the way,
We don't do that very often.
Martin, did you get your check for this? Because, you know, I mean, we're only here because we're getting paid, right?
No.
Do you get paid? I mean,
well, he was all on his own, so I got like an offer in private chat, you know. To
all right, I mean, I just come.
I tried to pay Andy.
I just come for the abuse, to be honest.
Are you Deputy Doug for today, then, Martin?
Yeah. I need to start talking about bees.
I want to send Doug the picture that Bruce posted on Discord of bee poo, and ask him if he's going to. Yeah, but I think it should be included in the Book of Bees. Anyway, we digress.
We do. If you want to know what the hell either of these people are talking about, then please do join our Discord, because there's nothing like talking about things that are completely out of context for everyone else.
It's like this, but 24/7. I mean,
well,
if
no,
you
it's
join
not
the
24/7.
Discord,
Andy is sometimes
you won't
asleep.
know.
It's been
I mean, join the Discord, but if you're a day late, you still won't understand what everyone's talking about because
What
there have
Andy's
been like
talking
1,000 messages.
No one understands
All from
what
Andy.
I'm talking about. Yeah. Absolutely nobody understands what I'm talking about. Although I did like the way earlier you referred to IKEA by name, but you wouldn't mention the warehouse store by name, which I thought was amusing.
Yes. Costco, there you go.
I was just wondering if there was some sort of subtle sponsorship deal.
Yeah, with Sweden, basically. Just Sweden sponsors me. That's why I've got why we got almost a kilo of of Swedish ginger snaps as well.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
They are
Anyway.
amazing, by the way. Let's talk
didn't
about
join
the
for all
thing
this
that
piffle-paffle.
people are actually not paying to watch.
Yeah.
Jason says the care product placement. That's true. So yeah,
Other stores may exist.
but
So we're
none
told.
of them sell cheap furniture that may or may not fall apart after a while.
Just listen to the Jonathan Coulton song. You'll get it.
Yeah, exactly. I really like this board game, the Stuff of Legend, and I think it's worthwhile us talking about.
I love the clown.
I mean, yeah, it's great. I would play the trailer, but I'm not entirely convinced that we wouldn't then get some sort of weird, copyright thing going on. But basically, the core concept, I'll leave that there for now, is that it's the 1920s. A child has been abducted by, I'm trying to remember the name of the character. Oh, the Boogeyman. Child has been abducted by the Boogeyman. And in a wonderfully Toy Story way, the toys have decided to try and rescue the child from the Boogeyman. And it's a cooperative game for, I think, 3 to 6 players, 3 to 5 players, something like this, where you play as the toys trying to recover the children, or the child. And I just think it's rather splendid. It's based on a comic book or graphic novel that I'm not familiar with. Graphic novel. 3 to 6 players. I just think there's something really charming. It's by Kevin Wilson, the game designers, and Kevin did like Descent and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and there was another one, I'm just scrolling out, Arkham Horror as well, and Android, amazing living card game. And the design is really nice. The style is nice. If you get the retail edition, it's $70, but for like $20 more, I'm just scrolling all the way through it to get to the Phil edition, as we like to call it. The
Never go full Phil.
Yeah. I like what you're insinuating. Thanks for calling me a retard. But let's talk about the Phil edition, because this is the one that gets the Dark Orb squeal of wallet disapproval. You get the game. I mean, that's a good start. You get a metal coin. You get a limited edition comic book, but you get minis, and these minis are really cool. So bearing in mind that these were like the toys that the kid had. So Cowboys and Indians, as they're called then, a Jack in the Box, a teddy bear. I can't recall. I think this is from like a jewelry box or something. I can't recall, but let's go back up. I can't quite recall what the pig's from either. But yeah, and then you've got knights, the tin soldiers, and that sort of stuff. And I just think it's really nice. The fact that it comes with a game trace insert as well. That says a lot for quality that they're going for.
Yeah. I mean, I know you're talking about the Phil edition, but I do like that they offer a standees edition as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And to be honest with you,
I think that's a nice move.
Completely agree with you. And for people who don't paint, then yeah, let's look at it. Because for people who don't paint or do paint but don't have the time, or if you've got kids and you just want to get on with it, the standard edition, 20 quid less. You can just pick it up and just play it, and it's going to be fine. And yeah, you get more of an idea of what they were. You've got your knight, and yeah, your ballerina, and your teddy bear, and your clapping monkey, and that sort of stuff.
So it's like
There's 8 of them.
Toy Story, really.
Yeah, it's absolutely that. It's absolutely Toy Story like.
No Buzz Lightyear.
And I mean,
it's probably for the best.
Well,
I think it will be hard to look at this and not think Stuffed Fables as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
By Jerry Hawthorne.
Yeah.
But I think there's enough space in the world for another board game that has like kids' toys going on an adventure. You know, it's like we've got Stuffed Fables. My kids love it, but we've played it a lot, and you know, there's only so much you can do with it. So this is like a good next game for us, really.
Have you done Mice and Mystics yet?
No, that's another Jerry
should
Hawthorne
check
one,
that
isn't
out.
it?
Yeah, it predates Stuffed Fables. We got it. We played about 3 or 4 scenarios, and then we decided to paint it. And then we both started working from home, and we now barely get games to the table because, as some of you all know, my desk where I am right now, I'm in the dining room. And my desk, which is a standing desk and 2 laptops and monitors, because I work in IT, so I have quite a lot of equipment that has to be on the desk when I'm working. So it actually takes an event like friends coming over or something like that for us to actually bother to deconstruct my desk from the dining table. And the dining table is where we would play board games. So it's really uncommon for us to do that right now. It's basically the reason why we're moving. You can play board games on the table in the living room, but then you'll have to sit on the floor, and then, and then in the words of Spinal Tap, you fold it in half and you end up with this, and then it's just not what you want because you just want a sandwich.
But the children of Stonehenge, Phil. I mean, all the characters are.
Yeah. Practical question: we can do Stonehenge tomorrow. In danger of being crushed by a dwarf.
Oh, how they danced. Anyway.
But yeah, so going back to that, I agree with you, and certainly it has that same feel, the Jerry Hawthorne feel. Mice and Mystics is really worth looking at if you can get hold of it. It kind of disappears and then re-emerges as a game that's in print. But we love it. It is quite crunchy in places, but it's not awful. It's certainly, I think, crunchier than Stuffed Fables.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I liked about Stuffed Fables was the fact that it was it was like a book. It was a story book that you opened, and the game board itself was within the book. It was the pages of the book.
Yeah.
So you like that was, and that's very attractive to kids. You know, it's like, let's read a book together, but actually we're going to take these toys out and you're going to help tell the story.
Yeah.
That's great for kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
And big kids. But I mean, this looks great. I mean, I think that's the only thing that really, in comparison, this doesn't have. It's not like the game board isn't a book itself.
Exactly.
It's got a lot of
like this.
Yeah, it's got a lot of really kind of lovely minis and standees. I really like the look of this. I'm tempted to get it. I'm tempted to get it as like a joint. Well, I was going to say joint Christmas present, but it probably won't be here in time for Christmas. So
no,
it might
June
be for the following year.
So let's be realistic here. The likelihood is that's going to be September.
Well, maybe joint Christmas present for 2 Christmases time. So Andy's gone.
Yeah. Andy's gone. I'll bring him back on when he's back. I really like this. I think it's really pretty. I think the product is quite well priced for what you get. I haven't looked to see shipping. Should we see if there's anything about shipping on here?
I think it's about the $30 range for Europe.
There we go.
For EU at least.
That's about right.
No. Well,
okay.
A
part of Europe is cheaper, but the EU is more expensive.
I forgot that we're no longer in Europe. So
yeah. You're in Europe. Just not in that little exclusive club anymore.
Look, we get our own price rates because we're no longer in Europe, because that's such a great idea. The fact that we went to about 4 petrol stations today to try and get petrol for the vehicle.
Gosh.
Yeah. It was okay because they were all on the way home and we weren't actually running out of fuel, so it was fine. But if we were driving every day, it would be awful, and
Well, fortunately, I work from home, but
exactly.
I have literally fumes in the car at the minute, and tomorrow I will need to find a petrol station. Anyway.
Yeah, the shipping. I'm just looking at the spreadsheet now because for the
Yeah, 'cause
EU
they've got
they've
a
got
table,
different
haven't they?
prices.
Yeah.
And you're looking at, well, I'm looking at
Sweden?
Sweden. Sweden is they've got a price for 4 kilos and a price for 5 kilos.
Which would be
So
the retail and the boogeyman, I guess.
yeah, so 30 bucks American for the 4 kilos and just under 33 for the 5 kilo,
I
which,
mean, it's not
to be
awful.
honest, for something like this is pretty standard
Yeah.
now.
Where's
Not
this
too
shipping
bad.
from?
Yes.
No, where is it
Um,
shipping from?
Yes.
ShipQuest.
Yeah, does that... I mean, ShipQuest are UK, that's games...
That's why you're getting it so
Yeah,
cheap in the UK.
Right, okay. Because I was looking at the American postage and then looking at the UK postage, and it was like, this does not compute. The prices are in dollars.
Yeah. But, I mean, ShipQuest probably have a US and a UK hub. And, of course, they might not yet have worked out. I'm just going to...
Well, they obviously have a China hub as well, judging by the road for
Well,
China there at the bottom.
I mean, they'll be assembled in China, let's face it.
Yeah, that's true.
It does say, because they're using DDP, that your shipping cost including VAT will be calculated. So, because at the minute, because of the change in the EU VAT rules, we tend to get hammered with the VAT and handling fees. So if it's including that, then that's not actually that bad for here at the minute, and for the rest of Europe. But
yeah, I think the prices are pretty good. I think the game looks great. The only thing that concerns me is a personal thing, that if we haven't moved house and we bought this game, actually getting 3 people to the table is a challenge, just because of geographically where we are. Because there's only 2 of us in the house, and like I said, it's pretty hard to be social when your house is set up to be 2 offices. So
yeah,
that'll change. I'm pretty tempted by it, and we'll see what happens.
I think there is like a tabletop simulator level in there as well, isn't there? There's something about that. I'm sure I scrolled past that and it said something about being able, for those that want a digital version of it.
Yeah. That's certainly an option. So that is the Stuff of Legend that we're talking about. It's on Kickstarter right now. It's running for another 19 days. You're looking at $80 of standard, $100 for the full retail, for the advanced version, the deluxe version, whatever they call it, Boogeyman Edition. That is unique to Kickstarter, allegedly won't be available afterwards. And then there are some levels where you could basically be a part of the game. Have a look at that. If you want to be drawn into the game somehow, there are sort of $300 levels where you can be... oh no, this is the one where you get a piece of art. Sorry, my mistake. I'm getting confused with another project. Yeah, you can get a piece of original artwork. So if they unsell, then you might be able to pick one of those up instead.
That clown's scary enough. Kids don't need to see my ugly mug on a mini.
Yeah, I got it confused with another game. Don't worry. Let's have a look at the 2 other projects that are on our artwork for today's episode. Where do we start? I've got a lot of appreciation for people that do this sort of streaming thing, and I think one of the reasons why I started the Dark Orb was that I wanted to kind of give back, because I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot from people like Doug at Victory Condition Gaming, from Matt and Dave at Effect, and I've learned quite a lot begrudgingly from a couple of different people who run channels that are incredibly successful, both of whom I kind of didn't like at the beginning because I thought they were kind of maybe arrogant and cocky, but I realized pretty quickly that that's not it at all. It's just that when you're confident in what you're doing, it can appear that way, and we know that from our professional lives. You know, when you are a domain expert and you've got experience, that willingness to try and help people can be taken as overconfidence or even kind of cocksuredness, shall we say. I've certainly encountered that in my professional life. I'm sure that most of us have, about whatever our kind of domain expertise is. And those 2 people who I really have appreciated in YouTube have been Seth Skorkowski, who does a lot of stuff for horror games, for Call of Cthulhu, although I've never run that, for Traveller, Alien RPG, that sort of stuff. And he's really good at communicating how to run horror games. And he does these really great skits where he basically has multiple characters all played by him. He does great things and shows you in a very unique way how to improve your game. The other person who has a very different approach is Guy Sclanders, and he does the basically the how to be a great GM on YouTube, and he's actually released or is in the process of releasing a superb looking book that's not particularly expensive called The Practical Guide to Becoming a Great GM. And I thought it was worth looking at. I have picked up Sly Flourish's Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master guide book, which was on my shelf up until very recently when we put it in a box and shipped it off to storage. And it's fine. But it's not got a lot of content. It comes with a lot of resources. And there is a Sly Flourish Kickstarter on at the moment, and I genuinely recommend having a look at it. It's a very different product. But I've got a feeling that this is, within the book realms at least, filling a niche that is slightly different. Both in the way that it's designed, the layout is reminiscent of some of our favourite RPGs, just in terms of the literally the layout, the graphic design, typography, etc. But I think the content's going to be quite interesting as well. Yeah, it goes into the types of campaigns, what you might be wanting as a player versus what you might be wanting as a GM.
Sorry, Phil.
So how you can...
Just zoom back. No, oh, you're not actually doing that. It's doing
I'm
it.
not doing that.
But that page, that table, and that artwork there, that's Symbaroum to me straight away. That looks like
exactly.
a Martin Grip background with a Symbaroum style table on the front.
Yeah, and that's my point, is that he's really taken some really great keys and keynotes and points from role-playing games, contemporary role-playing games, and is using those to inform how to design this book in a way that we are all accustomed. So it's not just walls of text, it's genuinely laid out to be a presentable book that is accessible to everyone that might be a GM. So it's not trying really hard to cater for people who have been GMing for 20 to 30 years, but I 100% believe that that's going to be of use to them. Likewise, the other way around, it's not just catering to new GMs, it's just catering to people who want to do better or even better or just want a fresh take on it. And I was going to say something, but I've completely forgotten what it was. So
I was just wondering if there was a prequel called How to Be an Adequate GM, or
No.
How to Be a Bad GM even.
No. I think we're already there. That's the problem. Don't need to be told how to be a bad GM. We have here, just checking the comments. Seth's GM tips are really helpful. They really are. Seth is great. Dungeon Craft Dan gives a good job of giving older guys permission to break tradition and embrace new ways to run the game. It's really hard to do that. Seth is very good for investigative games. Some GMs make their investigative style games too obtuse. Seth's approach is way less frustration. Exactly that. Expand on Guy Sclanders to see what else he's done. Yeah, I'll do that. Looking at the book, you have some really interesting chapters. So we have where do good ideas come from? Basically, how to create a story, how to create a campaign, the strengths and weaknesses of your GM style. So I think that's something that is really hard to tack onto, is that no matter what we might aspire to do as a GM, actually every GM is very different. like the way I run a game, no matter how hard I try, is just consistently the way I run a game. And if I try and run something in a different way, it still comes back to the way that I know how to do stuff. And certainly I'd love to improve that. Setting expectations, goals, and then a lot about world building. I think that's really important. You know, even if you're using someone else's story, it's still your world as a GM. No matter how hard you try to portray someone else's vision, you are interpreting that vision, and it still ends up being your world, not the world of the author. It's the world of you and the people around the table. And that's something that we kind of have to accept. And I know I'm preaching to the choir there. There was a request for us to talk a little bit more about what Guy Sclanders does. So let me just find his YouTube channel and I'll show you. So literally.
Hey, welcome to
noise! Shut up, Guy. Hang on a second. And let's see if I can mute that. Sorry, everyone. Guy has got an intro video on his YouTube. Thanks, Guy.
I guess that was a free Guy moment. Anyway, moving on.
Guy, yes. So.
Hey, welcome to.
No, shush, Guy.
Bad Guy. Here we go. He's got 212,000 subscribers, and rightly so. But he does an awful lot of cool stuff. And it's really how to interpret what's at the table and make it better. It's how to think about what you want from a game as a GM and how to make that happen. Lots of stuff about being a GM and quite a lot of stuff about being a player. You know, he does great stuff. And as I said, when I first started watching, it's because it was recommended to me by a mutual friend, and I really didn't like the video. I didn't like the channel at all. I didn't get on with his presenting style because I made assumptions, basically. And it took a couple of repeated attempts to go, actually, no, he's just being confident.
I think Brits sometimes have a problem with that.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And that you know that's our failing, right?
Yeah,
because it's like sometimes, you know, well, I was going to say sometimes, but a lot of times, like you say, it's people that are confident in their abilities and they're happy to share that. And in a work environment in the UK, well, just in general, Brits tend to apologize for a lot of stuff that they don't really need. Yeah, exactly. That they don't need to. And I think that carries over into when we see someone that doesn't apologize, we're like, well, that's just rude.
Yeah.
And actually it's not. That's just a really natural way to be. You know, that's something that I've seen living in Sweden. A lot of Swedes don't have that kind of apologetic culture. If they're good at things, they'll just tell you how to be good at it, like they are. Yeah, exactly. You know, you shouldn't have to apologize for things that you're good at.
But it depends what they are.
Well, okay, all right. Yes, I'm quite a good murderer. Sorry.
Sorry.
Is that why you live in the middle of nowhere?
Yeah.
It's like Anklet.
I'm not. Yeah, if I go too far from the house, my head explodes.
He's not allowed back.
One thing I would say about this, and I mentioned it when I was talking on, I think, one of the Discord servers I'm on. This is writing by just one person. So for me, that puts the use a little bit lower. I wouldn't go in on a physical version for this.
I understand that.
Because you've got books like Your Best Game Ever by Monty Cook Games, where they got a load of people to write different essays.
Yes.
You've got the complete Kobold guides, and although they're about game design, there's a lot of good advice for people that are running games. You've also got games themselves that have very good advice for running games.
That's true, and that's getting better and better over time, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And if you own a lot of RPGs, if you actually read those sections that most people ignore when they've been running games for a while, like how to run this game.
Sorry, mate. I'm sorry. I just need to interrupt for a second. Are you suggesting that people buy RPG books and then don't read them?
Yes.
So
Because they look pretty.
Let me rephrase that.
Hang on.
Are you suggesting that we're supposed to start reading the books that we've bought?
Yeah, hang on, Martin. You have to understand that Phil works in IT and never reads the manual. That's what it is.
I don't need to read the manual. I make people write the stuff and then write the manual.
But you've then taken that to your role-playing skill set, so you now don't read the book either.
I don't need to read it.
Because people wrote it.
I designed it.
I think that this is a good book. I mean, I've read it. Like after having that talk on the Discord server, I looked into it a little bit more, and I think you'll get your money's worth with this book. But personally, it's not for me. I get that. I prefer books that tend to be that pull information from a lot of different people within them. So this is a very good guide to making games, running games by the guy Sclanders' school of running games, you know?
Yes, yeah, exactly. And I think you make a really interesting and very valid point. I think the danger, I use that word tentatively, is in thinking that just by buying this book, it will solve everything.
Exactly, and that's largely the title of the book.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. That's basically because that's his brand, if you like.
I would go a little further, and this may not be a popular opinion, but I would say that the only way to become a good GM is to play under as many GMs as you can. And the reason why I'd say that is because you're going to take bits of it and do stuff with it, and you're going to take bits and drop it. And if you get a broad palette of GMs and you just do what you like it from those people, you'll get there. You don't have to. I don't think this needs to be formalized as a book-style course. It's just something that, it's like absorbing by osmosis in a way.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that you do learn from people that way, but some people do learn better absorbing information in this way. Personally, I'm more like that.
Well, you see, let me give you a reason why. In a way, role-playing is a kind of dramatics, if you like. It's a kind of acting, right? And yeah, you can pick up a book on acting, and you can pick up a book on, how to have stage presence and all this stuff. But the people who do well at it are the people who actually go up on the stage and try it. And you see what I mean? It's not so much a skill that you can learn from a book. It's something you learn by watching others and doing yourself. And I think trying to codify it, but that's not to say you can't have tips or you can't have helpful hints for the GM or whatever. You can do all that, but I think there's a sort of core skill which requires you to observe people, and that I don't think you can put in a book easily.
Well, I think that's valid, but I think there is a challenge there as well, and I'll see if I can articulate it. I mean, the caveat here is this has been made a lot easier by the fact that we can now play stuff online, which we couldn't have done previously. But that said, it is still very hard to find people willing to run role-playing games. And if you are the only person in the group that has the guts to do it, then you won't necessarily get the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very well known thing, the forever GM, isn't it? It's the person that is always running and never playing.
The designated
mean,
driver clause.
Yeah. I'm very in the middle here. I think you can learn a lot from reading something, but at the same time, I do agree with Andy. You got to put it into practice.
I learn better by doing.
Yeah. But some people out there don't. You know, some people out there really need a book, and they absorb the information that way, and then they put it into practice. But I think my main problem with this book is the title. I'm sure it's got a lot of really useful information in there, but saying the practical guide to becoming a great GM is like, follow this and you will be a great GM. That's not going to work.
It's like a self-help book, isn't it? It's like saying,
it's not going to work for everyone.
A thinner bod or whatever.
Yeah, but this comes back to the whole thing. I mean, this is just, it's only called that because that's the brand.
Exactly.
And the brand at the time when the brand was created, there would have been 0 followers. There's now 230-something thousand followers.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he obviously gives good advice.
Well, that's my point. So I completely agree with you that maybe and this comes back to what I was saying earlier, that the title is a bit cocksure and comes across as quite arrogant. But the reality is that if this isn't your only route, and if you actually absorb this plus, the Monty cookbooks. Cookbook?
Yeah, Monty Cookbook, yes.
And roll out your
a horrible
how to fry a kobold. But I would also say that books like Hamlet's Hit Points by Robin D. Laws are excellent resources for kind of.
I'm not saying, I'm really not saying that there aren't books out there that have helpful collections of tips and advice and whatever. That's not what I meant.
What I
meant was that there are some things I think you just have to learn by doing them or by watching them done.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
You can't. It's like you can pick up a book on martial arts, but to be a martial artist, you need to actually do martial arts. You can't just imitate the poses in the book and hope for the best.
But I think that all of these books are intended at people who have hit their glass ceiling.
Yeah.
If you get to a point where you find you can't progress any further because for whatever reason you've absorbed everything around you and you just can't seem to hit that next level, then starting to read these books, if you've got no other alternatives, or in addition to doing other things, will probably help in terms of giving you a point to reflect on. I don't think these are great for necessarily for new GMs. It's certainly good that
it exists in the grounds that when I started GMing, the advice that you were talking about at the front of the rule book was, these are the 7 dice, now roll the character,
I mean, that's fine, because that was just a miniatures game and everything, except, miniatures game with some storyboarded on. It's a bit different back in the 1940s or whenever it was.
I think that he has a captured market there in the people that already subscribe, and I also think that this is probably a perfect present for those players that always say they're going to run something and never do. for a forever GM who's like, just give it to them for Christmas and go, right.
I thought
you've got a few months and then you're running.
I thought you were going to say it's the perfect present for the role player in your family or something like that.
That as well.
Here, have this. I don't know what you do, but that might help. Yeah. Okay. I don't know. I'm wary of books that are self-help type things, but general advice and tips. Yeah, fine, great.
Yeah. I mean, we're getting to the point now where role-playing games are. They're getting those kind of things, though, aren't they?
Yeah,
I mean, it's like the increase in popularity is making books like this far more viable.
Well, to carry the Symbaroum analogy a bit further, the Game Master's Guide or whatever for Symbaroum is actually pretty much this book, I would say, to a large extent. There's an awful lot of help in there for Game Masters.
I would say that it's not particularly good at being a game agnostic book, though.
No,
GM
it's
Guide
obviously
to
tailored
Symbaroum.
to Symbaroum, but I mean, the point is that, even going back years to Introduction to Travel and stuff like that, you can see there is nowadays there is a much better idea, a sort of movement towards producing a section of the role-playing game or producing a supplement or whatever, which is exactly what Martin's saying. It's the section that does this. Here's the best sort of advice we can give you section.
Yeah, I agree, but counterpoint to that is I know some people who would complain that in a core rule book there's a whole bunch of stuff about what a generic role-playing game is that ideally has no place in a core rule book and should be separate because it's just wasting pages.
Yeah, but it depends who it's aimed at. If you're aiming the game at beginners to start with or something, and you expect to have a large amount of help in it, and if you are, and I don't think you should actually produce a game that's aimed at people who profess to be more advanced or whatever. But if the game is going to be picked up by someone who's never role played before, then they're going to need that section anyway, aren't they?
Yes, but this section in question, though, playing devil's advocate for this book, is like nearly 300 pages. You wouldn't want to put that.
Yeah,
at the start of your role-playing book.
It's certainly not a criticism of the worth of the book. What I'm saying, I
get that completely.
Like with anything, it's a personal point of view, and that is, I prefer books that are written by, like, if there's a book like this, I prefer it if it's written by a group of people rather than one person.
Yes, I totally get that.
To get those different points of view, because like Andy says, you pick up from lots of different GMs, and lots of different GMs have lots of different styles, so it's best to get that broad.
Yeah, I agree, and this certainly is, as you already said, Martin, this is very much how to run games like Guy does. And we don't know, as in the three of us don't know really how much of this stuff is generic advice versus how much of this stuff is very specific to a particular GM style. We can only speculate because we haven't got the book, but
of course.
But I think, coming back to the kind of the original idea, if you're a GM who has hit their glass ceiling and you can't progress anymore, and you've run out of ideas, or you've tried to absorb as much as you can from the people around you, and you just want something different to take a step back and reflect and do some self-analysis, then I don't think this is a bad way to go as a stepping stone if you have exhausted all your other options, and if you're kind of fed up with YouTube, or you just don't get on with YouTube videos. Because let's also remember, he's got hundreds of videos on YouTube. Seth Skorkowski does, numerous other people who tell you all of this stuff. But actually, that doesn't necessarily mean that's where you want to go.
I think it's always worth exploring fresh perspectives, regardless.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, it's worth looking at. Yeah. But it would be, as Martin said, a PDF backing for me if I backed it at all.
Yeah.
This is one of those ones that I would actually love to have seen a POD version, because usually I tend to avoid them, but actually with this, I would have been more interested if there was a POD.
Well, the digital PDF of this is DRM free, so I guess that's
okay. You could take it to a print shop, or
and the physical print is, I think, it's offset printed. There is a video of him at the very beginning, the top of the Kickstarter campaign. There is a video of him just sort of describing the print quality and all that sort of stuff. I might pick it up. I haven't decided yet. Just to kind of self-analyze a little bit. But I would certainly not look at it as, hey, y'all, good to see you. This is turning into a proper party.
And there were 4.
Yeah, I think it would be really important not to use this as your sole reference point.
Definitely.
Yoel, have you been following along? What's your viewpoint?
My viewpoint is that one is, as far as I can tell, is not intended to be followed along as this is the way to do it. It's a collection of tidbits and tips. I watched his live stream when the Kickstarter launched.
Yeah.
And the reason he chose practical is because they have packed the book full with practical snippets and tidbits that can be used. Use what you want to use, ignore the rest. Take it, twist it, use and abuse. So it's basically a toolbox.
Yeah, I mean,
in that
you've
case-
sold me on it more than he did by that description because
Yeah.
his title, The Practical Guide to Becoming a Great GM, really puts me off. You know,
I can understand that.
It's like, you know, if he'd have put 250 tips to being a great GM,
Yeah.
I would have been like, you know what, that's fine. But it's like the
That's
practical
exactly it.
guide. Every single person that reads this will be a great GM. That kind of rubs me the wrong way because some people just aren't great GMs.
Because you're Martin, and we love
So-
you for...
Yeah,
Martin,
you know.
you should, I don't believe you. You just have hidden away and never tried to GM us. So maybe we will force you someday.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. We need
Maybe
to get
once
Martin
I've
a
read
copy.
the practical guide to being a great GM.
No, we're going to get you the impractical guide to the Great GM, and you're going to have to follow all of the advice in there. It's going to be stuff like you can only run a game when you're standing on a bucket.
When
I'm
combat
gonna...
begins, you have to burst a balloon.
Yeah, exactly. At the beginning of every turn, you have to get one
Sound
of
a
those
gong.
penny whistles.
Play a kazoo.
I'm going to break from this for a second because our friend Eric is running a Kickstarter, and we have a countdown going.
Oh my god.
Yes.
Now I'm
Has
stressed
he made,
for
has he
him.
made $15,000? This is the question.
Oh my god.
Oh, so
Oh,
Damn it.
come on.
Damn it,
Oh,
that's just not going to
someone
get there,
back
is it?
$600 now.
Oh man.
Do it.
Oh, that's just not fair. Life is not
You
fair.
bunch of C words for just not getting it there. I'm just refreshing the page. No, that's not moving. Oh man.
What are
People
we?
just don't know
500
the thing
and,
when they see it, do they? Having said that,
$558 short.
that is fantastic.
Ta-da!
though. Way, got it live. Well done, Eric.
Well done, Eric. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that product. I may never run it personally.
$558 though to get the Wesley Snipes voice acting clip type thing.
I know. I mean, you know.
762 backers though. That is, well done.
Yeah.
Eric. That is
Eric,
great.
have a think about adding as a stretch goal for like a tip jar to like get it up to that level if that's what you're looking for. Because I'm sure most of us who have backed it will happily throw an extra couple of dollars in just to.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you get
Take it over.
762 people to add in an extra $1, then you
That's
go
my point.
faster.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Is
Charge
he-
an extra $1 in shipping. We'll never.
Are you using backer kit, Eric?
Use back a kit.
Pledge.
Yeah, okay.
Or is it Pledge Manager?
Put it in,
or
put
I
that
thought it
tip
was
jar
back
in.
kit. Well,
No,
if it's Pledge Manager, that makes me happier.
Yeah, I think it is Pledge Manager.
Oh yeah, no, you're right because we were talking about the fact that Free League uses them. I just had too many things.
But yeah, that's a bit gutting that they didn't quite get there. But anyway, never
Well,
mind.
but hugely successful. I mean, that's really
Oh
cool.
no, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to celebrate with a Mothership game in the next couple of weeks. Some guy called Joel Blom says, "Hey, I'm in the show."
Oh.
Oh man.
That's very meta. I'm sorry. I'm gonna.
Yeah. Practical
broken
Guide
the
to Becoming Great
fourth wall,
GM. I actually think it's a really valuable book. So if you want another tool in your tool belt, basically, have a look at that. Have a look also at the stuff by Sly Flourish that's currently on Kickstarter as well. I'm not going to show that because that's not the first campaign in this style that they've done. They're fine. They're really good as well. I found that the detail was a little less. I was a little disappointed in that regard when the stuff that I backed from them in a previous campaign actually arrived. but it's great for new GMs, and that's a slightly different target, if you like.
It's quite D&D centric, isn't it?
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah, it is. It's very D&D 5th edition centric, which was fine at the time when I bought it because I was playing quite a lot of 5th edition. But yeah, that's not going to happen to that same extent again for a while. There's only one other thing on my shortlist, and I am really pleased, Martin, that you were able to join us actually, because I think that you are a good person to talk about this project.
Oh man, you know what? I haven't done my homework this week, but I know you're talking about Flabbergasted. So
yes,
Flabbergasted.
Yeah. So my understanding is you are a group of people in the Roaring 20s, and I mean there's a little bit of a flowchart here. You pick an archetype 1 of 4. You join a social club. You get a reputation, so you have your social standing stuff. You get invited, you heard it here first, to a secret society, and then you get into mischief. My understanding of the system is very, very simple. It looks like a D6 dice pool based on your attributes. 3 to 6 players, including the GM, which they're calling the director.
So this is basically Call of Cthulhu without the horror.
Yeah, I kind of think so, and maybe it's more comedic.
Roaring 1920s.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like a mix between the game that we played on the stream, Cogs, Cakes, and Sword Sticks. It's got a little bit of adventure by what was White Wolf at the time. It's got a little bit of Spirit of the Century in there. It's one of those thematic games, so it's very 1920s. It's very over the top. It's supposed to be a bit of fun. It's one of those games that I think you would probably pull out when maybe you're missing a player for your regular game, and you'd be like, you know what, let's break this one out. Let's have a little fun, so that it's not. I mean, to me, I saw it and I was like, yeah, I want this game. It just looks fun. It's not too involved.
I'm really tempted by this, and I may well back it. But I think personally that I really struggle to get light-hearted, fun comedy games to the table, and it's not because of a lack of party for it. It's just that I think because actually in real life I'm quite I like to have a really good laugh and try and be open and fun and be really jolly and jovial. That actually, when it comes to role playing, I'm kind of drawn away from that. In terms of running a game, playing games different. I'm quite happy to play a game like that, but I think, I don't know, I guess for me that's not escapism, if that makes sense, as a GM. And I mean, it's kind of hard to articulate, but this comes back to that that previous book, I guess. What I would gain from that book is how to run games that are different to the ones that I seem to run by default, which seem to all be somewhat harrowing, political, intrigue. I mean, look at Simbram, for example, kind of dark fantasy. I find it really hard to run horror game, to run comedy games, because I spend most of my time trying to laugh.
I mean, say something about this though. When you're going for dark dystopias as your escapism.
Yeah, I know. It's exactly that, because
a little worrying there, maybe.
Well, is it?
I think comedy is hard to instill in a game. I think it's more decided by the players at the table.
Yeah. There has to be a trust there that everyone's going to buy into it and be silly for a start.
Yeah, I mean, the old Red Dwarf role playing game was good. It was a good one like that. They had a lot of stuff kind of quirky, ha 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 kind of writing, but it's like if the players don't buy into it, it's just going to be a bad sci-fi ripoff. You need, which is what Red Dwarf is. But without the comedy. Just
bad.
It's yeah. I mean, I think the interesting thing about this one is they've got these things called scene cues in it, where you can kind of direct the action, so you can kind of steer it towards a more amusing thing. You can take the scene and you can go, you know what? Actually, let's focus on this part of it because that's a bit boring. And as players, you can kind of drive the narrative in that direction. Which, you know, Adventure had something like that where you could spend points to edit a scene, like those old kind of serials where like something would happen, but then like the car would be going off the cliff, and then when they started the next one, actually it hadn't gone off the cliff; it had turned at the last minute. It's like, you know what? When I watched the last one, it had gone off the cliff. What? But you know, it's that kind of thing. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Andy.
Anytime.
Yeah.
Andy wonders why I'm not paying him.
Yeah.
He told me you were paying him. What is going
He
on?
told me he might pay me.
Right, I want to know how much you're paying Yoel now as well, because I think I'm getting
one
stiffed
Polish
here.
zloty, I believe. I think it's still viable. I don't know. Sorry, yeah, you were saying, Martin, before I...
No, I think Yoel was going to say something.
I was going to say, I'm basically in the same box as Phil. When I run games, it's mostly horror games, to be honest. But if I were to play a comedy game, it needs to be so obviously comedic that it can't be just like I haven't tried Red Dwarf, but as you say, if you don't pull the comedy off, it's just boring sci-fi. Not good sci-fi, boring sci-fi without the comedy.
I'm surprised that you haven't done comedy though, Yoel, because I think comedy and horror work really well together.
They do if you do it over the top and you instill it from the start. So yes,
Shaun of the Dead, you know,
Shaun of the Dead, or if we go some classical Call of Cthulhu scenarios, we're going to say Dead on Arrival 2. These are Blood Brothers scenarios from the 90s. Really fun because you use the horror tropes to a maximum. The whole point of those scenarios is to play tropey horror movies.
But like Andy says as well, Mel Brooks, so like Young Frankenstein and Spaceballs and
you can do that. And if you do it so obviously that it's over the top comedic, then it works.
Yeah.
But if you try to walk that fine line of having more nuanced comedy, it's hard. It's damn hard.
I think as a GM, it's very hard to do it because, as you said, I mean, it's about that thing of not making it forced. And actually, I find scripted comedy particularly hard to do. And
I mean, I think if I was going to ask people to play this game, I wouldn't say it's a comedy role-playing game to start with. I would say let's play a role-playing game that's set in the 1920s. It can get a bit silly and see if they enjoy it.
Way of putting it.
But
yeah,
I think the comedy makes itself. I don't think you have to script the comedy here. I think it's basically about awkward social situations, really. If you look at their inspirational sort of stuff of Fawlty Towers and Jeeves and Wooster and whatever, the comedy in those things is coming from awkward social encounters. Yeah. It's not coming from it's not coming from a sort of forced.
But I think that's where calling it a comedy role-playing game kind of lends itself to that idea that you have to forcibly make something comedic, which is quite hard to do.
I think
that's probably not the intention.
Yeah, I think I'd take a leaf out of Martin's book there and say it's not comedy, but you can play it that way.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you could... and I'd leave it to the players to turn it into a farce or play it straighter or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if there is a quick start, so I haven't looked at that. Probably should have done. Whoopsie.
Might have helped. Could have had a 300-page section at the beginning about what a role-playing game is. So,
yeah, and then obviously all the rules, even though they're the same as another game by, the same publisher, but slightly tailored differently. Because I know you're a big fan of that, Andy.
Obviously, yeah.
So the quick start, I'm just looking at it now. let's do this. In fact, is that going to open in the right place? Let's have a look.
Remember, he works in IT.
Working in product management, so it's not really IT. It's not like you silly people.
No.
Yeah, so this is the quick start. 30 pages.
Very pretty. I'll give it that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of it's almost got a bit of a little bit of a kind of Disney quality to it. The
Yeah,
artwork.
I mean, the first thing I was thinking of actually was Troubleshooters, but it's not
Yeah.
really that visual style.
Yeah.
It's not the style of
I mean,
Troubleshooters at all. But
It
has that sort of
reminds me a little bit of Princess and the
aesthetic in a
Frog,
way.
Disney.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, in terms of the actual art, I mean, it's sort of kind of cell animation style, isn't it?
Yeah.
Look at you Wells showing off with his Troubleshooters.
I mean, you know, he'll never run it.
Oh,
He needs to
That
get help to be
sounded like a
practical skier.
challenge.
yeah. He's only saying that so he'll run it.
He'll never run it for the Dark Orb.
You know, I think one of the stretch goals I would have liked to have seen was maybe some more archetypes.
I think 4 is a bit poor, if I'm honest.
Well, especially seen as two of them, the aristocrat and the well-to-do.
Yeah, look,
Seem-
I'm just exactly
seem
on that
quite-
page. That's useful.
Seem, I don't know, a
Pretty
little
much the
bit
same.
similar.
Yeah,
I'd have had the eccentric as one, actually.
but it's
Yeah. I mean,
Also along those lines.
if you're going for something like that, I mean, I would have gone a bit gonzo and had like the like a kind of inventor type as well, someone who's
Yeah.
just like completely.
which is again could come under the
Bonkers.
eccentric, really.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
thinking of the sort of Professor Brainstorm type, you know.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was thinking
Yeah.
like I'm in a very Disney mindset with it, so I was thinking like the dad out of Beauty and the Beast, like who's just like makes
Or the-
crazy inventions. And,
I can't remember the film. Was it Mary Poppins, where the guy next door was an admiral and had cannons on the roof and all that?
yes.
Yeah, that's the sort of eccentric you want. It's the guy who still thinks he's commanding a boat or whatever. I don't know.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think there's potential for more archetypes. Maybe.
Yeah, it should maybe be a stretch goal. We'll have a look at what the stretch goals are in a second. But I mean, yeah, it looks lovely. If the actual book is going to be laid out like this, that's great. I think that's really well. The layout is very easy to read. It's very accessible.
I
It
actually
does feel
have
a
one
little
small
simplistic in a way.
complaint there, though, which is the glare effect on the pages, where it's shiny in the middle and darker around the edge. There's like a starburst effect behind the text,
It's like a
and that can, I find that it's great when you're just reading in a room or whatever, but if you're outside and you have that sort of glare on the screen, I find it permanently annoying.
I mean, I don't have that problem with books, but you know.
Well, yeah, if you read the actual book, then fine, yeah, but I tend to read on an iPad or whatever, so yeah, it just looks like there's a glare on the screen.
I mean, I tend to find if I try and read, this sounds like I'm picking at you. I'm not. I tend to find if I'm trying to read a PDF on an iPad outside, it's really difficult anyway.
Yeah, it
I
varies,
can't
but
have
okay.
I don't think that's a glare thing. That's just a brightness thing.
Yeah, I think it's got better, but it's. I
that
consume
won't
an
help.
awful lot of books as PDFs because I hate carrying heavy books around all the time.
We should
But-
stay in more, Andy. Well, Martin's got it licked. You know, you just get one of those fancy bracelets, and then if you go outside, your head explodes.
As long as you don't go too far
Yeah.
when your head explodes, then you're fine. Just it's all a bit Running Man.
Yeah, exactly
Some
that.
sort of satellite targets in on you or something. It just narrows down.
Down. Got him.
Yeah, but no, it's just little things like that like in that layout sometimes. But it does look, as a book, it'll probably be immaculate.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it does look very nice.
Should we have a look at the stretch goals? If I can actually get the damn thing back again.
I don't think these stretch goals are that exciting, to be honest.
Where are they? I'm just
Can't see them yet. So
scrolling. Just scrolling on the page. There we go.
Although,
Wow, look at all of
having
those.
said that, they've unlocked 20 more story hooks, so that's quite good. I quite like
Okay. So,
story hooks in books.
the stretch goal at 7,000 is they're funded, so they've got that. More story hooks, ribbons. I do like ribbons in books.
I don't think it should be a stretch goal, though. I think you should just do that as a default.
I mean, they would have done.
Costs
I mean,
more.
you know, they would have planned that from the start. To be honest with you.
Yeah,
The only,
because I
you know,
think
it's
it's
just at 14, less than 14 grand, they couldn't afford it, but otherwise it was definitely going to go in.
I quite like the next stretch goal, the illustrated fashion guide. I do,
Is that because you're a dedicated follower of fashion?
of course. Yeah, for that kind of setting, I think
Yes.
I think that's a nice stretch goal. I think that you know, that's the kind of thing people are looking for, really. Like I say, I would have liked some more archetypes in there. I think
I mean,
4
you know, they say
is...
that they've got more to come. I mean, this
I
product hasn't been hugely successful as yet, but hopefully
I would have liked to have seen a sort of social etiquette type guide, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
You know, the do's and don'ts of polite society type thing, because from that you can draw an awful lot of.
That may.
I mean,
already
that
be in
could
there.
be in there, I suppose.
I don't know, but that's something that I would think would be appropriate for this.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about, you know, which way around the dessert spoon goes. I'm talking about, you know, the sort of interaction type stuff, and how to make that then awkward and how to interpret that maybe.
I tell you what, I do
Hopefully
like
that's in
actually. I like the fact that you the social club aspect of it. You kind of design your own as a group.
there. Yeah.
I
But that's
think
immediately making me think of Brindlewood Bay, which I
or
still need
Blades
to
in
look
the
at.
Dark, when you
Actually, it
decide
makes-
what kind of
It makes me think of Dune and building your own house, actually. But
yeah.
each
But
of
it's
their
the
own.
same, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
building a society or a community or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that's always a fun thing to do as a group. Kind of like what you know, it gives that bit of ownership to the players.
Yeah.
I think that's nice.
It's identity, really. You get it on online games, you know, in Warcraft with your guild or whatever. He's whelmed.
Yeah.
Not underwhelmed, overwhelmed, just whelmed.
Whelmed.
So
Middle of the road there.
with troubleshooters, Yoel, how many character types do you get in that? If it's designed that way,
I have no idea because I haven't read it yet. I get more books than I have time to read. You know.
you have the book there, man.
I mean, if you actually read this book, Joel, then you might learn something about GMing, apparently.
Yeah, I probably will sometime.
So this goes back to the earlier point of people never reading the books they've got.
So, but do you still have the book to hand there, Yoel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
I'm just wondering because it looks like they're roughly about the same size. How big is that book? Because this one's supposed to be 160 pages, Flabbergasted.
That's not many. That's not many at all.
This is 230, 235.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So how many different kind of character archetypes have you got in that?
On my way. I'm going to remove the cover first.
Yeah, that's not a lot of pages in this book then.
I'm sure that's what it said, 160.
Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, in terms of, we were talking about comedy games, I'm just padding what your looks. And I said this in an earlier episode a couple of weeks ago probably, I still really kind of want to pick up Passions de las Pasiones. I just think that looks so much fun. But again, I'm just not confident about running it.
No,
Well,
Because I think it looks incredible.
The designer of that, Brandon Leon Gambata, he's just launched a Patreon for a game he's designed called Rad Crawl as well, which looks like it's shaping up to be pretty good. So
he's one of the best friends of one of my colleagues, so I shall have to look into that.
That Protean City people, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, a quick check says they have 15 templates already in the book. And, I also believe there are instructions of creating your own templates as well.
Yeah.
Because
so
what kind of era is that, Yoel?
Adventure scholar, caring veterinarian, cat burglar, cosmopolitan dilettante,
I think it's
diplomat.
1960s, isn't it? Troubleshooter.
Yeah, 1960s.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
But then we
It's
could
the-
pick anything like, even Call of Cthulhu or something. You could probably
Yeah,
transpose
and Call
some
of
those
Cthulhu
bits,
has examples and is very clear that make whatever occupation you want.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to be, I don't know whatever you can think of that would be appropriate for that time period, we can create a character that is that occupation for you.
Yo, have they just suddenly turned the sun on in Stockholm?
I was going to say.
Oh,
Oh, there we go.
sorted.
It's the
I
built-in
thought it was
camera. It's not that
it
good.
was the Rapture there, and he was about to ascend.
I'll be back in a minute.
Just a set of headphones and a crumpled pile of clothes, and yours gone. That's it.
Well, it'll be like, oh no, false alert! Everyone else has gone out.
I just got an email. Please authenticate your pledge for Rain in Blood. Should I, Eric? Should I?
Screw
You're
that.
left.
I don't think it's worth it, to be honest with you.
Hey, I got some deliveries as well this week, Phil.
Ooh, did yours include a damaged copy of Alien Death Fiend or whatever it was called?
A damaged copy of what? Was it one of the Trico ones?
What was it? Acid
Death Fantasy.
Had a tiny little bit of damage. No, you missed that.
Oh,
I mean,
did.
it's I'll show you. It's nothing too major. It's just, when you're trying to look after your stuff and then something arrives that's not quite perfect and you're just like, oh. So.
Oh, I really love that book. I adore Luke Gearing's writing.
So can you see if I just make myself bigger?
Oh.
So this was actually peeled off. This was peeled off.
I understand. It doesn't really affect the usability, does it? But
no.
It's still a bit.
But yeah, this was all like peeled off. Like someone had literally taken like a knife to it and just taken that layer off.
Oh.
So I emailed them and let them know I didn't ask for a replacement.
Yeah,
not required. Younger me would have been incensed and would have just said, I want a replacement now because this is not acceptable. But
yeah,
I've grown up a lot in my 40+ years of life.
One thing I will say about Luke Gearing is that on Twitter, he offers to mentor people that are wanting to break into RPGs, and he's on his second round of mentoring. He's already done one. The first person that he did, they've now apparently signed a contract that's going to be announced soon, what they're releasing. So very much
people who want to break into the RPG industry.
Yeah, he's very
That
much
makes
giving
more sense.
back. Yeah, very much giving back to the RPG community online. So it's and his writing is amazing. So, but yes, anyway.
What did you get, mine? Show us.
This is from another amazing. This is from another amazing RPG writer. I've spoken before about Chris Bissett at Pangalactic on Twitter. Loot the Room. They are very good. There.
Oh yes, I remember seeing
Hunted
something about this.
folk horror role playing. It's a very chopped down version of. It's a Forged in the Dark game, but it's a kind of stripped back version of that for playing a group of people that are being hunted by something, American Werewolf in London kind of thing, out on the moors. Something is hunting you, but
where the moors, keep to the path.
Yeah, but the thing that I like about it is the players build the myth of the thing that's hunting them as they go along, and to get extra dice on your rolls, you every time you kind of bargain to get an extra dice, you add a myth dice to you add a myth dice to the pool, and basically it kind of creates this myth of this thing that's hunting you.
You're being
So is
pursued
this-
by a sort of tulpa thought form that grows as you fear it, or
Yeah, you power it, and then it becomes this thing, and you're telling tales about it, and it's like it kind of morphs and changes
Does it
until
have
you get to the
a sort of
final act.
It sounds like
anticlimactic
exactly the
ending
kind
where
of
the
role-playing
guy
game
is
you're not
actually...
going to run us.
I've just got this
Yeah.
vision of you building up this story about something that's following you, and actually it turns out to be a guy with a Zimmer frame just going, hello.
Or,
The sort of
even
anticlimactic ending.
scarier, even scarier, it turns into the awful spider monster at the end of the It movie, like the old TV show one. That was just the least scary thing I've ever seen in my
The
life.
miniseries.
Yeah, it was awful. Yes, but I've got quite a bit.
Oh,
No,
Wretched, yeah.
I've got that.
I remember
Yeah,
Sanctuary
Wretched.
got that as well.
Yeah, it's very
With-
good. It's very unique, actually, that.
With the
way they-
soundtrack.
I didn't get the soundtrack. I like the mechanic in that of the decaying ship, as you were. You actually use Jenga as the
Yeah.
as the ship, and you remove
Yeah, like
bits
in
of the
Dread.
Jenga thing until the whole thing collapses. It's
Yeah.
very cleverly done.
And what else? Oh yeah, D36, which is like a zine that they did with lots of different
nice.
lots of different authors in there, a lot of indie authors, little kind of mini games, just things to add to other games. It's whole thing is there's a lot of kind of lot of content warnings on this one. Lots
I
of
think it's more warning
lots of
of that.
lots of horror, body horror. It, on their shop page, it does tell you to beware. So, but
Beware.
very good. Yeah, the Hunted has me interested to
Tell you
maybe
what,
even run something.
I'll tell you what arrived a couple of weeks ago that I totally forgot about and should have shown when we had Young Master Shoot on the channel. Let me just grab it off the shelf. And that would be Sin's Manifesto, which is a source book for Sins. Annoyingly, I don't think I can zoom out anymore. Oh, I can. There we go. Excellent. So this is super pretty. Let's see if I can get it to focus a bit better. So the layout is pretty cool. The artwork is really nice by Will Kirkby. The art is by Will Kirkby, sorry. But this is just like a post-apoc, slightly zombie-y thing.
Yeah. I like that.
And this is the annoyance that we have with Sins, as much as several of us really love it, is that despite the fact that the authors are British, the setting is all North America, really. There are sections in other areas of the world, but really the setting is North America. And it's just a shame that they're obviously kind of going for that larger target market, which I understand, but it feels a little bit, I don't know, shortchanging.
I mean, if that's what they want to write about, that's what
that.
they want to write about. But I mean, a lot of writers say write about what you know.
Yeah, I think that's
No,
it.
maybe they do. Maybe they've got American sort of
Yeah,
knowledge.
Yeah.
I was
But
going
it
to
looks
say
like a nice
skill
book.
roll there for a minute.
It's
It's like
lovely. It's lovely.
American law.
And this is the collector's edition version as well, so this one matches the version of the core book that I've got. I'd put them side by side, but that's in storage, so no one go and destroy that storage box. It's got all my limited edition stuff in it. Jason goes, the authors aren't British, they're Yorkshire.
yeah.
Yorkshire.
Laugh down pit, whip it.
I don't know. All that,
So that was, I mean, that's everything that I've got to bring to the show this week.
I did get something in the post, but it's not a Kickstarter, it's an eBay purchase. And I'm therefore sure it's not really covered by the scope of the show, to be honest. eBay Your Weekend doesn't really sound like it's a thing.
Yeah. I mean, if it's
I also got this from Loot the Room. It's not by.
Every time you say that, I think you're saying Loop Guru.
Yeah, that's because I'm from the north and I don't enunciate properly.
We think you're talking about werewolves.
Yeah,
this is Songbirds, which is a OSR-ish game. Very nice. Lots of cool stuff. Lots of inspiration.
Make you bigger again.
Lots of. They've got part of character creation is choosing the type of music that is the soundtrack to your character. So
you moved that and it blurred and it looked like it said microwave there instead of dream.
Yeah. Microwave
music, yeah.
Yeah.
Ting!
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of in love with OSR games at the minute, so
yeah, well, back in the
I wasn't there.
Started gaming.
I mean, Andy likes to think that
Nouveau
he was there
OSR.
first time. Well, the thing is, Andy likes to think that he was there at the beginning and therefore it doesn't count now, but he hasn't quite cottoned on to the fact that OSR is nothing like those original games. It's a complete evolution of that.
You say that, but I would say that doing a simple dungeon in Mortborg or Morgviri or however it's said, is very basic D&D to me.
Learn him, Joel.
Mörkborg.
Mörkborg. There you
go.
But I would say that it's basically a dungeon bash, and it doesn't matter to me if you don't have levels and all the rest of it, and it's not basic D&D. It is, to me, the concept is very early 1980s, shall we say. And that, I think, is where your old school stuff comes in. But to me, it's just school, because, hell, that's where I played it. So, you know, it's amusing in a way.
I mean, I think...
it's... Sorry, Martin.
I think now OSR is... it's kind of this... It's not just the rule set. It's the feel of the game, isn't it? It's,
well, that's what I'm saying. It's a dungeon bash. It's not the rule set. It's the simple aesthetic of it in a way. It's the simple planning of it, where you don't worry about setting up political factions and empires and languages and God knows what else. You just have people going into a tomb with a lit torch and killing things or whatever. That is pretty much the concept of early D&D scenarios, and it's.
But then you have the other side of OSR, where you have like Worlds Without Number, Stars Without Number, where you very much do all that faction politics as well.
Yeah, I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm saying there seems to be at the minute. Yeah, there's several schools of OSR, which is a bizarre way of putting it. There's several schools of old school, but it is like that. Some of it is Renaissance, early 1980s, and some of it is Renaissance, late 1980s. I guess I don't know. It's kind of a mix, but certainly more Mörkborg, or however you say it.
That was pretty good.
Better, is more what I would call basic D&D or whatever, really.
So where I think OSR is different from even D&D from the 80s, for example, not necessarily the first versions of D&D, because I can't speak to those, but I find that OSR is more about the narrative and the storytelling than it is about the dice rolling and chucking dice to playing to win, for example. And I think that a lot of dungeon crawling is actually has that element of miniatures gaming and playing to win, which I don't think is an OSR thing.
I think there's more story, because I still think they've got a modern spin on it. And
But I
it's
don't
more
think that is
narrative-driven.
necessarily a modern spin. I think it's just
Well, okay, not modern spin, but they have a more narrative-driven approach and whatever.
yeah,
And it's true that
narrative-driven. That's the phrase I was looking for. Thank
it's
you.
true that it's not the wargaming style I think you're referring to really of D&D, where it's you advance your party 10 feet and then you tactically deploy and you do this or whatever. So yeah, I'd agree that that part hasn't been what's the word? Like, the word I'm thinking of is resurrected, but it's not that. It's not. It hasn't been brought back where you have that sort of wargaming style approach, but the overall feel of the dungeon delving type quick scenario or whatever, that very much is there. And I think it's a hodgepodge, because I don't really think that OSR is truly, let's go back to the 1980s and do all that again. It's more
some of it is, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I think
the two guys that were
OSR,
playing games in the 1980s are going like this. When you say that OSR is going back to the 80s, if I do like this, do you recognize this one, Andy? But without the text.
You have to hold it closer to the camera. Yeah.
Chalk. I don't know if we got a British release of that.
You had a British release because this is the Swedish version of the Pay City game Chill. So you most definitely had it.
No, sorry?
No, Paysetter didn't do Chill. It was Mayfair did Chill.
Oh, Mayfair did it first. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Then Paysetter bought it.
and I
Sorry.
actually owned Chill. And the problem with Chill, I don't know if it's true with Chalk, but with Chill,
It's exactly the same game. Exactly. It's
do you have the quotes all the way through the book from Rags? Because the problem with Chill was they had these sections all the way through it that were quoted by this mysterious figure called Rags in mixed case and generally trying to look creepy. And actually, they just kind of put you off the game entirely. It was like, well,
Well, this is a translation. It's not a Swedish version in any other way than language.
Okay. Yeah, Chill was actually very good, but the problem with Chill was they didn't support it very well. And it died a premature death as a result, I think. Because basically it was the core book, and then they brought out less and less good quality supplements, and it just died a natural death.
From different eras and approaches.
Yeah.
But I would say that OSR is... I saw that Martin was drinking a nice beer earlier. And as a beer geek, I would say that OSR has basically become the IPA of the role-playing world. It's the label you attach to everything because, boom, that increases sales. And no one today can actually agree what an OSR is. But you need to add it to the game.
That's like slapping gamer on the side of a PC peripheral. The minute you put gamer on it, then, suddenly it sells.
I think the interesting thing is that everybody can agree that when they say OSR, everybody can agree on what the first two letters stand for, old school. Mm-hmm. Very few people can agree on what the last letter stands for. Yeah. Revival, Renaissance, Revolution. It's like, what are you actually... And there's a lot of people trying to do different things in the OSR scene. Right. And now you've got FKR as well, which is Free Kriegspiel Revolution, which is taking the old German wargaming, and then that changed to like a more narrative style. So now they're taking that, which is an even more kind of simplified version of it. And I think rehash. Yeah, nice one, Jason.
The one I'd heard was Resurgence.
Well, see what I mean? No one can bloody agree.
And that was the one that kind of stuck with me. And then people started saying Renaissance, and I thought, well, hang on, an old school Renaissance. Surely that's just a Renaissance, isn't it?
Well, I mean, I would say Renaissance. I would say Renaissance applies more to games like Old School Essentials, where they've basically taken those BX rules, and then they've added in the advanced, and they've neatened up the text.
Yeah, but I think that the key here is that there are quite a few games that would potentially be classed as OSR. Some of them are not even D20 based. Like some people class Mothership as quite OSR. And I would say it is.
I think the creator classes it as OSR.
Well,
so
exactly.
Yeah, I would say
Story is OSR. Dungeon Crawl Classics is OSR. Lamentations of the Flame Princess is OSR. These are
You see,
widely different games.
I think it also depends on what you define as old school, because old school presumably is anything before when you started role playing.
I think
Well,
old school
is
has.
70s, 80s derived.
I mean, I
stuff.
think old school has come
Well,
to
is
mean
it
more
though?
zeitgeist rather than. I mean,
Yeah.
I think when people say old school now, they don't really mean a rule set, or they mean the zeitgeist, and it's romanticized.
Yeah.
You know, they've very much got
Yeah.
these rose tinted goggles on when they're looking back. And some people like me, you know, we weren't even there playing. And OSR
That's
to
the
me
thing.
means something completely different to OSR for someone who was playing back then.
Yeah.
I'd agree with that. I think it's bizarre. I really do. I mean, I know that things come in. Yeah, it's a feeling. I think that the thing that amuses me most is the way that some things are, you know, history repeating itself in a way. But I mean, to me, the words "old school" have always been defined as something in your youth or something before you started doing X. You know, it's one of those two sort of meanings.
But in this case, this old school refers to something in the youth of role playing, and role playing as something that started realistically in the late 70s to mid 80s.
74,
that
I
is
think
the
it was.
youth of that's the youth of role playing. So it's anything that kind of harkens back to the core systems and the style of gaming that we saw then, and that's where even Mothership, being as it's basically a derivation of BRP, does fall back to that, as opposed to something that is very clearly of now. For example, anything that comes from Powered by the Apocalypse, which is very much a creature of the time of now. You know, that whole style of role playing, which is pretty much just come around realistically in the last 10 years or so.
Yeah, but where do you then draw the line? Since people are talking about old school in the mid 80s, the D6 pool system from Western Games arrived in Ghostbusters in 86, I believe.
Yeah.
So
but I think
it's a fluid line.
I think it's to an extent, well, I would see it to an extent as being how rich the setting is, in that most of the OSR games I've seen, not all of them, but most of them, as a core book, are fairly light. So Merc Warrior as a core book is pretty light. Mothership has basically almost no setting, and you've got a concept, but you don't have like a universe built out. Lamentations doesn't fit into that. DCC is kind of a weird bastardization in that it's got a universe, but actually each module is very much its own thing.
But then you see old school games, if you take old school to be 70s, 80s, most of them came with a setting built in of some kind.
Yeah,
I mean, Traveller had the Imperium and whatever, so it's
And RuneQuest had
Glorantha and Greyhawk and all those things.
But most of the books that we're looking at as old school now don't really have that. I mean,
Okay.
they tend to.
I mean, Merc does.
It does.
Which most people would consider OSR, but it's very like take it or leave it in terms of there's a lot of modules you can plug in and then just use the basic rules. So
there are too many now, actually, for multiple
guys.
Someone started compiling a list, and it was ages
and
of
this
it.
creates a difference. If I'm going to say the new games that are calling themselves OSR old school, if they say that, we don't have settings because old games didn't, but old games did. So what is the old in these games, to be honest?
I mean, I think that's why when I say it's a zeitgeist, it's trying to create that freshness. Because I think now... I mean, I think, you're looking at you coming up on like 50-year anniversary of D&D, right?
I know, it's scary, isn't it?
So you're looking at that 50 years, and people are like going, let's go back to that time where it was just like invite some friends around, break out the dice, and go down in a dungeon and sort the problem out. Forget about the fact that Waterdeep has all of these lords and basically
Yeah.
it's almost like an anti-law thing. It's like you have these books with all of this stuff in, and it's like, I just want to sit around the table, eat snacks, drink beer, and have fun with my friends. I think that's what OSR is about.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to be cynical and say that the guys creating the OSR games and having the mental image of what you are describing, they have never experienced that.
No, but they're trying to create. What they have done is they've seen E.T. and they've seen Stranger Things, and they've gone, I want to do that with my mates.
I was wondering about that, actually. I was thinking that played into it somewhere. The Stranger Things type thing. I mean,
there's nothing wrong with that.
I remember someone telling me, because I said, I just said that I started gaming in 81. And he turned around to me and said, "Oh, so you're second wave then?" And I went,
Did you just say 1881? Because that seems feasible.
Hang on. We got someone who was around in the Free Kriegspiel days.
No, but I was told I was second wave because the first wave was the university students picking up D&D. And the second wave, which was the early 80s, was when it started going into retail outlets more, and it became a thing that was more, as Debian Games Workshop, you picked up a catalogue and you bought games or whatever. And I'd never thought of it like that, but I guess there was a period where it was literally just pamphlets handed around a university for a while before it became a product. And that was your first wave. So yeah, I guess I see old school as the pamphlet student days as opposed to...
but that's why zines are making...
it is now. Yeah.
That's why zines are making a resurgence.
Yeah.
I
think that's good, actually.
Yeah.
So, on that bombshell that zines are back because Andy was born in the 1870s.
You keep moving my birthday back, Bill.
You're the one who said that you were born in 1881. It's been 2 hours, so I think now is a good place to wrap up.
That's a trifle if you were born centuries ago, I tell you.
Yes, I know. It
He's
feels like 5
into
minutes to you and 2 hours to the rest of us. Thank you, everyone who's watched. We are going to try and get some extra horror stuff over the next couple of weeks. We're certainly hoping to get some Mothership into the stream, potentially some Call of Cthulhu, definitely some Cult. We've started recording that already, and that will be in the last week. You going to run it?
Go on.
I'd love to. Get
We'll see. We'll see. It might be recorded so that then you can go, actually, he's crap.
Only if you make the big bad the spider from It. That's the
Well, that would be up to the players now, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be up to the players. So, thank you everyone that's joined. Our wonderful hosting service cuts off the names of some people that have joined, but thank you to Eric, to Jason, to Sanjuro, to Mohammed, to Bruce, obviously to Yoel, Andy, and Martin. Who else? I know, Paul, you're watching, and I'm just looking to see if there's anyone else. Raggle G, good to see you. We will be back next week. I think we should probably talk a little bit about friend of the show, Stu Goff's Aegean RPG next week, among other things. And in the meantime, if we are able to, we will throw some horror games on over the next 7 days. If not, it's going to be another week from now. But again, thank you to everyone in the meantime, and it's a goodbye from us. And I hope
have a good
your
weekend.
dice rolls are better than mine.
Yeah.
Ciao, ciao.